guest today is David Tabatsky, who is a man with a very interesting career history. He was a stage performer, a writer, a producer, a teacher of the art of being a clown for the Big Apple Circus, a street performer, and a man who seemed to have lived his life the way he wanted rather than the way he expected. Well, first of all, I want to say, David, welcome to my show. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
You had a passion for Superman and Zorro
Yeah.
to emulate them. Why did you pick those two characters?
Operating outside the status quo. That's always been something appealing to me, something challenging.
I understand that.
But something necessary. I started street performing, oh my gosh, soon after I finished college, my first undergraduate degree. Because that's when I started to learn pantomime and juggling and some other physical comedy things.
You performed at Radio City Music Hall.
Yes, I was going to tell you about Radio City. I think it was 1984. It's a long time ago. It was the first MTV Music Video Awards, the very first one. It's like when Madonna launched with Like a Virgin. That was the first time she, performed it live.
As a performer, did it feel different when you were on that gigantic stage in Radio City Music Hall as compared to on one of the paths in Central Park with about
of course
20 people around?
Yeah, of course.
What was the difference?
Well, I would actually say I preferred street performing because you really make a connection. And the thing about street performing that's pure is you create it out of nothing. 1 minute, there's nothing there. People are just passing by and, just doing what they're doing during the day or in the evening. And then you start to play and you create a crowd. You're creating the crowd out of nothing. And then people are choosing to remain there. It's much different than being part of a big production in a venue like Radio City, which carries its own mystique. And it's in a way it's exciting, but it's very impersonal.
I also wanted to ask you about your ability as a writer. You were a consulting writer or a consultant on Marlo Thomas's book, The Right Words at the Right Time, Volume 2, your turn.
Yeah, I worked with Marlo. This was the second volume. The first Right Words at the Right Time were all with celebrities. Really like A-list celebrities. And then that book was a big seller, and the publisher wanted to do, and Marlo also together, they decided to do a book just with, quote, ordinary people. And the same idea, what were the right words at the right time in your life from someone? And so I worked with Marlo for many months, also with two other people, but I became the consulting editor for it. It was just sort of a kismet, situation.
What is the job description of a consulting editor?
Well, I think it's a big general title and it kind of changes. Like on the one hand, we're talking about the view from 30,000 feet about the book. What do we really want it to be? How do we want it to connect with people? What are the messages? What's driving our choices editorially? Like, why are we making certain choices? So there's that view. And then there's very granular stuff about literally interviewing the people, helping them create their stories, and then editing it word by word by word. I mean, Marlo and I spent hours slaving over sentences, and she's very exacting and very detailed.
Well, you're very good with inspirational books because you authored one of the chicken soup for the soul books, dealing with cancer. Yeah. What was the reaction to that?
Oh, quite positive across the board with patients, caregivers, and doctors and nurses. There was a really wide cross section of people that I included in that book, and I was, oh my God, that was a really moving experience because I was hands-on with every single piece. Even though there are two other people, with their names on the book, I was the one who actually was in contact with all the people and chose the stories and worked with everybody. So it was a very emotional journey, for many, many months, to put all that together. Yeah.
Would you be interested in doing it again by coming up with a chicken soup for the soul based on the tenor in this country right now? I think we could all use some help to try to get out of this hole that we're in.
That's a really good thought. It's a great question. You know what? Now, when I'm talking about the looking at the big view of a book, when I'm consulting sometimes, that one, what you're just suggesting, that is the ultimate challenge. Like, how do we create an even playing field and a welcoming playing field for different opinions?
Exactly.
Because that's the ultimate challenge. There's really no room for it because everyone wants to go into their silo with their tribe. And if you don't say exactly what I say, then you're not part of it, right?
I also don't think that anybody really knows what to do.
But see, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing.
What's
right?
that?
Well, I mean, there's a million versions of it, but we all want to be safe.
Yeah.
We all want to feel that we're loved. We want to express love. We want our children to grow up to be decent human beings. We want the garbage to be collected. We want the roads to be free of potholes. And we don't want acid rain falling on us. And we don't, and in Miami, you don't want the water to rise up so high that it's going to swallow up the city.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody wants the same thing.
It just looks like everybody, instead of looking in that direction, are looking in another direction, and all they see is money. Who has it and who hasn't. And they don't see any use for any of the things you just described.
It's interesting that you bring that up, and I would tie it back actually to the book Filthy Rich Lawyers, because the main character, who's this young, ambitious lawyer, he gets sucked into this unimaginable levels of wealth and the people who generate it and the people who insist upon it, and then he has to find his own moral compass. So if he's gonna participate in it, he's gonna become a fixer of sorts. Mm-hmm. How does he maintain his own values and still operate in that world? So that's the conflict in the book, but it's told comically, but it does raise some serious questions.
What's in the future for David Tabatsky?
Good question. Wow. Oh, now you didn't stump me, but maybe I think the biggest challenge I have is to try and figure out which things are viable. Like, I have a lot of different things I want to do, even if it's just in the field of writing. I mean, I love these books that I can do. They're really fun to write. But I also like the cancer book, which I can't say it was fun to write, but it was very satisfying. Mm-hmm. I want to continue to balance these very real, heavy subjects that people really need help with also providing entertainment, because we also need that too. So that's the biggest challenge, is to figure out how to dose it all out. Right.
I usually refer to that as I got to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah. I can see that you have that personality, and it's very lovely. And I can relate to that, because I think I'm not so different.
No, that's what drew me after I read your resume. I say, this is a guy like me. I want to talk to him.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I
really
enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck.